Ron Swanson, where he takes a picture of Big Ben and he's like, "Oh, look, a clock. We don't have that in America." All right, and welcome back to the latest and greatest episode of the Shaving Points podcast. My name is Jayden May, joined as always by my co-host Quentin Krisko. Gonna be breaking down the NFC West this week with our very special guests. So why don't you let us know, or Q? Why don't you introduce the guests? Name slipped my mind a second.
We got Jeff Krisko on with us tonight. How you doing
I almost
tonight,
said
Jeff?
George.
Doing great, not George. Also,
No, that's my bad.
happy to be here. Happy to be here with my brother with a completely different spelling of the same last name. Very unique last name. No, I'm just happy to be here. Thanks you guys for having me here. I'm excited to talk to NFC West. I usually talk. You can see all the stuff on the side here. I usually talk fantasy football. That's usually what we do on all that. So I'm happy to talk some real football. I don't have to argue about ADP with anybody. So I'm very happy to.
I'll come talk fantasy anytime you want.
Let's do it. That's perfect.
I love fantasy.
Yeah, it's great.
I love talking fantasy.
Yeah, so make sure you go follow Jeff on Twitter. Go check out his website. They're up on Twitch, their podcast at Football Absurdity. But we're just going to jump right into the San Francisco 49ers. And to start that off, Jeff, we asked you before the show, we told you we were going to ask you this. What's your state of the 49ers? How do you see things as they stand right now?
So I'm gonna pontificate a little bit before I answer that question. So I've had season tickets since I moved to the Bay in 2011. So I was there for early Harbaugh. I went to a few games with Singletary. I've been there through thick and thin over the last decade and plus. And when I tell you that I am so concerned about the 49ers right now, I don't know what to think. If I had to put it in one word, I would say trepidation. Lost a ton of our defensive linemen, lost a handful of offensive linemen. I don't know who the quarterback is week one. Nobody does. It could be Sam Darnold, Trey Lance, Brock Purdy. And until I see him take a snap with the Raiders, I'm not sure it's not Jimmy Garoppolo. They lost DeMeco Ryans. It's just a lot of the swagger that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch kind of show. Now it's kind of a put up or shut up time because they used a ton of picks to get Christian McCaffrey. They wasted a pick on a kicker. And it's a lot of like, hey, we know you guys, you think you're the smartest people in the room. Now it's time for you to prove it. And you've done it time and again, but now it's kind of like, ugh, they lost a lot. I wrote down everything they lost. It was like 15, 16 guys that played roles last year. So people are giving them the benefit of the doubt, but I think it's gonna be a slow start for the Niners. So there's a lot of trepidation.
Yeah, I think I was only able to fit 8 guys that they lost on our graphic, but the 8 I got, it's McGlinchey, Ibukam, Menahu, Ward, Mosley, Al-Shaair, Jimmy G, and Robbie Gould.
Yeah, and then
there were a few others in there too.
Yeah, like Brunskill, Daniel Brunskill, who's a interior offensive lineman for the Niners, more in the defensive backfield. They're kind of depth guys. Tarvarius Moore, Jason Verrett, who was great when he was healthy, who's never healthy. Dante Johnson, Emmanuel Mosley, who is actually kind of an underrated. Oh, you had Mosley. Okay, I was gonna say he's kind of an underrated guy. And then just a bunch of rotational defensive linemen, which is what really has me worried about the Niners this year. Is they lost a lot along the defensive line, and we were talking before the show. They do this. They kind of cycle through guys. They turn scrap heap guys into guys who go get 3-year $30 million contracts or whatever. So, but none of that says DeMeco Ryans. There's nothing on here that says I didn't say DeMeco Ryans intentionally. Yeah. That's the thing that has me worried because he studied at Robert Saleh's feet. He was the straw that stirred the drink, and now he's gone after losing Robert Saleh. And it's like, they just keep promoting from within. So in theory, it should be the same stuff, but I have no idea. That's what has me so worried.
DeMeco is a guy that around the league seemed to garner a lot of respect from a lot of former players and current players, of guys that played with him, guys that played under him. Seemed to be a guy that a lot of people talk very highly about. So
yeah, and the first time I felt old because I play my home league's an IDP league, so it's the first player that I've had on my fantasy team that is now a head coach. So I'm officially old.
Yeah, that DeMeco did he just knew how to structure what he was doing to guys' strengths so well. And I mean, personally, I'm because you guys got in Steve Wilkes, you got a guy who really did well though in his last stop when he got the interim head coach job. Like I thought he elevated that Panthers defense.
Yeah.
But on that front, I mean, you might go a different way with it, but what's something you're excited about for the 49ers this season?
Well, I'm nervous about the defense. I'll say that, but something that I'm excited about it's more on the offensive side of the ball. I'll say, and it's seeing what a fully functional Kyle Shanahan offense with Christian McCaffrey, with George Kittle, with Deebo Samuel, with Kyle Juszczyk, and maybe Trey Lance. And Brandon Ayuk. Like Brandon Ayuk would be a starter, would be the number one on like 20 teams in this league. But seeing what all those guys do in a fully armed and functional like Kyle Shanahan offense. And honestly, I'm worried about the quarterback. I'm more worried about the defensive line, if we're being completely honest with you, because of how many guys they lost. And the Niners, like, they got big years out of Nick Mullins. They got big years of decent games out of CJ Beathard, and it's a lot of Kyle Shanahan doing his thing. And he's a chaotic dude. And I'm really excited to see what they can do with all these guys, plus Elijah Mitchell, plus Jawan Jennings, a lot of depth along that line.
Yeah. So I'm in a sicko league.
Oh,
it's a 32 team IDP league.
All right.
And yeah, I love the value of Sam Darnold here in this offense. I think if he gets his opportunity, I think this could be the place where Sam Darnold thrives. And you mentioned Brandon Ayuk. I think Brandon Ayuk's like one of the most underutilized players in the entire league. And either San Francisco is going to figure it out, or he's going to be a breakout star for a team like the Carolina Panthers in 2 years when he goes and signs a fat bag.
Yeah, I was going to say the Niners have it's first world problems. They have too many good players and too many like top of the line players where it kind of feels like a Brandon Ayuk might get squeezed out, because how are you going to pay Trent Williams top of market, Christian McCaffrey top of market, Fred Warner top of market, Nick Bosa will have his contract by then. Did I say George Kittle, Deebo Samuel? It's like Brandon Ayuk, some team is going to get a stud in 2 years. Like you said, he's going to be an absolute star. And then also another guy, if I had to pick one player that I'm excited about, I really want to see after his breakout how Talanoa Hufanga plays this year. Because Hufanga was a breakout star last year. Like he was a stud, a Pro Bowl, I believe, second team All-Pro. He was incredible, but there were a lot of holes to his game. Towards the end of the year, teams started to play on his aggressiveness. Now, he and Fred Warner are basically the same player, just in kind of different ends of the same spectrum of that coverage / thumper guy. So I hope in offseason with him and Fred Warner, he can kind of temper those problems that he had towards the end of the year. Because teams were playing on that. They were showing like they were going to go in a particular direction towards Hufanga. Hufanga would break there, and they put a guy over where Hufanga used to be. And that would cause some problems. So I really hope that's one guy I'm excited to see his growth this year is Talanoa Hufanga.
On the Ayuk front, in the 49ers having too many good players.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, on the way home from the Senior Bowl, me and my buddy, we were driving along like 10 hours because we both live in Texas. So we were just like, we'll just drive back. But on the way back, we're just dreaming up ways that the Bears can somehow get Brandon Ayuk because the 49ers have too many good players and they can't pay him. Like, and it was just like we were just daydreaming over this idea of Brandon Ayuk. I love that guy. I think awesome.
Ayuk and Fields would be well together with DJ Moore underneath. I think that's a nice little offensive core to get going.
I'm sure they would give you Chase Claypool for him.
That's okay. I'll take the second rounder instead.
But so moving on to our last question here, what's something you're worried about within the 49ers this season?
That they spent a third round pick on a kicker and then joked about it. They're too cocky.
Wait, what was the joke?
Kyle Shanahan said something along the lines of, well, at least we didn't spend it on a running back, making light of the fact that they, between Tyrion Davis-Price and Trey Sermon, they spent 2 third rounders and got 80 snaps combined out of those guys, maybe. But it's the cockiness. That's what it is. It's the I don't know if can I cuss on this?
Yeah.
It's the you can't tell us shit attitude that this team has, which is nice until you get kicked in the teeth.
It's the Rams GM wearing the shirt said fuck them picks.
Fuck them picks. That's exactly what it is. And it's because what it is it bit them in the ass once already. Javon Kinlaw. They traded DeForest Buckner, used a pick to take Javon Kinlaw, and said, "This is we're going to save money, and we're going to get as good of a player. We're the smartest guys in the room." And it didn't work out. Javon Kinlaw, please don't yell at me on IG Live or whatever he did. We're spitting chicken everywhere. I don't know if you guys saw that. He yelled at a 49ers beat writer. That. Yeah, but dude's a bust. I'm sorry. You can't stay healthy. It is what it is. And they did it this year with Jimmy Ward and Jair Brown in the third round, and they were saying the same things, and it's got me nervous. Third rounder, not so bad, but it's this cockiness, this 49ers cockiness, which when they're blowing out teams 43-17, fine. I love it. In June, July, and August, it's got me super, super nervous, especially because this team might be starting Sam Darnold week 1. You do not have any right to be cocky starting Sam Darnold week 1.
Sam Darnold does have the blood of Dick Hammer running through him, though.
Yeah. I mean, what's funny too is how upset do you think Christian McCaffrey was to be like, oh man, this guy again? I got to deal with this guy again.
I don't think Christian McCaffrey cares because he knows he's
getting 20 touches.
The offense begins and ends with him, so I don't think he cares who the quarterback is.
That's true. I just thought it was funny that Brock Purdy doing great, rips his arm apart. It's like, oh, maybe Trey Lance. Oh, Trey Lance might not be healthy. Oops, now it's Sam Darnold again. Like, that's a real.
So what is going on with the Trey Lance situation? Is he ever going to play? Is he ever is he going to be traded? Like, what? Because the sentiment that I hear seems like if Brock Purdy's healthy, he's playing. If he's not playing, Darnold's playing, and Trey Lance he's just in the building.
Yeah. So there's like two parts to the Trey Lance thing. So there's the Trey Lance part and there's the Brock Purdy part. A lot of people want to say Trey Lance is a bust. Dude has barely played. He broke his leg on a rush up the middle.
He didn't play in college either.
Yeah, he never played. So do I wish they took Justin Fields? 100,000%. Like that's who I was rooting for, that the Niners were going to take at 3. I knew it wasn't going to be Mac Jones, but he's an incomplete right now. That's the Trey Lance of it. I think the Niners are just going to cut their losses. They're not going to trade him for like a third or a fourth or whatever and have him go be a star elsewhere. They're not going to do that. But I do think that if Brock Purdy is healthy, he's the starter. Because if there's one thing that Kyle Shanahan is he's loyal. If you've done something for him, he'll do something for you. He's going to ride you until he can't. This is why Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback for the last 5 years. Because he wasn't great, but he was a known commodity. And Kyle Shanahan said, I can win with Jimmy Garoppolo. I got to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. I got one drive away from the Super Bowl again with Jimmy Garoppolo. Niners rack up NFC championship games with Jimmy Garoppolo. Is Jimmy Garoppolo good? He's fine. He's like, we joke that he's the
I love that phrase.
He's fine.
Yeah. I have the phrase. I have the argument all the time about Jared Goff. Yeah.
Yeah. He's fine. He's in the same tier as Jared Goff. There's this blob of guys that it's like you can win with them, but you're not going to win because of them. It's Jared Goff.
Allen.
Yeah. It's Jared Goff. It's Jared. No, it's Jared Goff. It's Derek Carr. It's Jimmy Garoppolo. It's
Josh Allen.
Kirk Cousins sometimes. Sure, I'll say Josh Allen. There you go.
Justin Herbert.
I'm not giving you Herbert. I love Herbert. He's my boy. But he's fine. And that's kind of what Brock Purdy is. Like, Brock Purdy can execute the 49ers offense very well. And that's what Kyle Shanahan is worried about. His quarterback doesn't need to be a guy who does everything. He just needs to be a guy who does what Kyle Shanahan tells him to do. And that's what Brock Purdy found success. That's, Nick Mullins, people were trying to convince me that he was a top 25 quarterback in the NFL. Dude has not done anything since leaving San Francisco. Like, that's what Kyle Shanahan's offense can do. So
while we're on the quarterback topic, what's the primary difference in that you noticed in Kyle Shanahan's play calling and what their game plans are from Garoppolo to Purdy? Like, what changed?
So I don't know if a lot changed, more so that the deeper shots were actually looked at. Because if you look at like a Brock Purdy, like say Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo are running the same play. Like let's say it's there's a running back up and out, and then there's a slant from the outside receiver, and that's say 3 wide, and they run like a 3 verticals type thing. Jimmy Garoppolo is riding that running back. Jimmy Garoppolo is hitting that check down. Jimmy Garoppolo is going for the short, quick pass. He's going for the 4 yards, the 5 yards, the more like 5 yards is 5 yards, West Coast offense sort of thing. Whereas with Brock Purdy, he would stay in there, he would roll out because he is a lot more mobile than Jimmy Garoppolo. And he's looking, it feels like every play he's looking to get to a first down. It's the same plays. It's just Brock Purdy ran him with a lot more swagger. Brock Purdy was probably
Big 12 offense, baby.
Yeah. And you know what? To be honest with you, that was not the Brock Purdy I saw at Iowa State. The Brock Purdy I saw at Iowa State had some processing issues, and he had the slowest release I can remember seeing. Dude just kind of had like that wind up toy.
Brock Purdy. I don't know. I don't know if it was Kyle Shanahan or what, but Brock Purdy held Iowa State back from a shot at a national title and a Big 12 championship his last year. I thought Iowa State was one of the best teams in the nation, and for some reason he just couldn't get it done. And when San Francisco took him late in that draft and he had to come in, I was like, if Kyle Shanahan hasn't done anything with this kid, like they're going to be in trouble. Yeah. But like the years leading up to that senior season at Iowa State, he showed a lot of things to where like going into that season, I was like, Brock Purdy's going to be a Heisman candidate. They're going to win the Big 12. They're going to make a run at the playoff. And from the start of that season, it was just miserable. Like, I don't know what happened to him. And then last year we saw the younger Brock Purdy of his early years at Iowa State, where he was making plays, he was getting it done, he was pushing the ball downfield. Mm-hmm. Just the I'm here to win, don't give a fuck attitude. And that was what Iowa State needed his senior year. And for I don't know what happened. For some reason, it wasn't there.
Yeah, and it could have been as simple as he was in his own head, because that's the one thing that Kyle Shanahan really does for quarterbacks is he simplifies it. And he says, you do this, you do this, you do this, and if none of it's there, then the play's over. You're probably sacked by now. But it's not like, all right, figure it out. It's very controlled. It's very measured. And I think that kind of, Brock Purdy, I think he got into his own head his senior year. That's why his processing was so slow. That's why, he felt apprehensive throwing the ball his last year at Iowa State. And I think Kyle Shanahan really simplified it for him, which is the benefit of the Kyle Shanahan offense. And in the couple games before Garoppolo came in, he was doing, a couple of games before Purdy came in, Garoppolo was finally rounding into shape. And I joked, I was like, I think Kyle Shanahan sat Jimmy Garoppolo down in a room and he wrote Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Kyle Juszczyk on a board and said, just fucking throw it to one of them. It doesn't matter. Just fucking throw it to one of them. They will get you a first down. And I think that's what he started to do. And that's what Brock Purdy did. Like Brock Purdy, Jimmy Garoppolo lived to get to second and 5.
Yeah.
Like that's what he was trying to do on every play. He was like, all right, let's get to second and 5. Brock Purdy was like, let's get that first down, baby. And it was that pushing it downfield, and it's more confidence than what Garoppolo had. And I think it was just simplifying it. And that's what Kyle Shanahan's offense could do. It can make you feel good as a quarterback. And that's what happened with Purdy.
Okay. It's also kind of nice. It's also kind of nice when you can walk out there in 22 personnel and the defense has to match it only to realize you're actually in 11 personnel.
Yeah.
Because you have all these players that are like George Kittle's like a receiver.
Yeah.
McCaffrey's like a receiver. Like you can just mess with defenses. I love it. It's incredible. It's incredible to watch.
But that's before we get down to the nuts and bolts of this, I just had one fantasy question for you.
Sure.
So when you look at the tight end position in fantasy, it's Travis Kelce and everybody else. Mm-hmm. Travis Kelce is a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. Mm-hmm. Value-wise, but is this the year that another tight end can close the gap on Travis Kelce to where it's not just Travis Kelce on like a 1A tier and then the next closest is like 2B to him? Or is this still going to be like can Kittle be the one to close that, or is it still just going to be the same old, same old? You have Travis Kelce putting up wide receiver 1 numbers, and the next closest tight end is a normal good tight end.
I'm going to say yes. This is the year that a tight end closes the gap, but no, it's not George Kittle.
Okay.
Reason being was 2 years ago, Mark Andrew closed the gap, and with Todd Monken there in Baltimore, they're going to throw. And tell me who on that offense is fully established and has done something in the last year, because Odell Beckham's a name. Zay Flowers is a rookie. Rashad Bateman was all hype. They're going to throw. Mark Andrews is probably looking at 135 targets, and that can beat Travis Kelce. One of the reasons is it's not something I'm primarily concerned about, but it's just something that's tapping me in the back of my mind about this Kansas City Chiefs offense. I believe Travis Kelce is 33. They don't have a wide receiver 1. They don't have a running back 1. They do have Patrick Mahomes.
Isaiah Pacheco's good.
Isaiah Pacheco is very good, but Isaiah Pacheco doesn't have that like jack of all trades type thing, because he doesn't catch the ball. He's just kind of
McKinnon.
They do have Jerick McKinnon. So they have this like mix and match of like this wide receiver 1, or sorry, running back 1, running back 2 thing. They also have CEH there, who's a better running back 3 than he is running back 1, but they don't have this like guy that Patrick Mahomes can lean on if Travis Kelce gets double covered. Like he can dump it off to Jerick McKinnon or what have you. There is a stat I saw, and forgive me, I don't remember where I saw it, where he had 1 touchdown pass over, I think, 19 air yards last year, which is not Patrick Mahomes' game at all. Like you think of Patrick Mahomes, you think he's dropping back, chucking it downfield. He was dinking and dunking touchdowns. So
I mean, we're both on the Patty Mahomes train, and I wasn't trying to like go onto like a fantasy tangent here.
No,
we will have our fantasy talk here in a couple of weeks.
It's just something that's tapping me in the back of the head about the Chiefs. That's just kind of like it's bothering me. It's like, are they really going into the year with Kadarius Toney as their wide receiver 1? Like, are you?
They might. But
they'll just spam the SMU kid targets like he got at SMU.
Oh, Rice. Yeah, they could do that.
We'll have our fantasy talk here in about 3 or 4 weeks, probably after we finish the division talk.
Nice.
So we'll definitely have to bring you back for that. But
I'm in.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to get down too big of a rabbit hole with that, because you start talking, then I start talking, then all of a sudden we're 20 minutes deep into fantasy.
Oh,
Not trying to do that right now.
Yeah.
I was just wondering about Kittle. Is like, can he be the guy to step up? And I do like Mark Andrews as well. And there are like Kelce can't do it forever until he can. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah,
I was just more wondering about Kittle.
Yeah, that might be a me problem on our podcast. We'll start off being like, okay, let's talk about Austin Eckler. Then like 15 minutes later, we're breaking down like DJ Chark versus Adam Thielen. We're like, hold on, how did we get here?
Yeah. So I wasn't trying to get too down in a rabbit hole. So.
Back on the 49ers front, one question I got is, and this was a guy who I was big on in the draft, and he went higher than I even thought he would, was Danny Gray. Is Danny Gray going to grip some more snaps from somebody, or is he just kind of stuck?
So I thought Danny Gray was there for Trey Lance to develop with. So he doesn't really fit anything else. There's no room for him on the 49ers offense except for just as a chuck it 9 route guy. And that's not what Sam Darnold does. It's not really what Brock Purdy does. So if it's not Trey Lance, Danny Gray is a man without a home, because Juwan Jennings is an incredible number 3 receiver. You've got Ayuk, you've got Debo, you've got Juszczyk, you've got Kittle, you've got all these options. I even like Latu, who they drafted at tight end. And there's just not room for Danny
everyone's
Gray.
Down on Latu. I liked Latu as well.
Yeah, Latu had his last year was not great, but I like Latu. He's converted to tight end. So I give those guys a little bit extra time to develop. But I am worried that Danny Gray is another wasted pick, because he just doesn't fit anywhere. Like without Trey Lance, there's no Danny Gray. Cause like when he was drafted, I said, oh, this is a pick for Trey Lance. This isn't a pick for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
Cause that's the only role he can play on this team. He can do it well, but not with Sam Darnold, not with Brock Purdy.
Okay. And then who's starting at right tackle?
My guess would be Colton McKivitz. He only had like 70 snaps last year, but that's my guess. It's got to be Colton McKivitz, because ugh, it's rough. Letting Brunskill and McGlinchey go. My guess is Colton McKivitz because he was serviceable in stints last year, which is the nicest thing I can say about him.
I mean, hey, I feel like for the last 2 years, I've looked at the 49ers O-line and been like, how the hell are they going to make this work?
Yeah.
And it's like, he just gets these big athletes. And in researching for this, I actually ended up going back and pulling all the draft info from you guys. Like, holy shit, these guys are all 6'5" plus. Like,
yeah, they're huge.
Insane athletes. No wonder he's just making it work. They're all giants.
They also have my favorite player, maybe of all time, in Trent Williams.
Oh, Trent Williams is a monster. I love Trent Williams.
He might be the best football player in the league.
He is. The way he can take 250-pound guys and make them look like they're 110 soaking wet. He just takes them and just throws them. He'll throw them and hit the right tackle in the head. It feels like he just picks them up and throws them to the other side. Like he is a monster. And when he retires, I'm going to be very sad because I went from Joe Staley to Trent Williams, and now I don't know what the Niners are going to do. They got to figure it out because maybe they'll get the last 2 years of Laramie Tunsil or something. I don't know.
How Washington messed up that whole ordeal will never make sense to me. Like, to me, he is the best football player in the league. I mean, he can do everything, and he's just a freak out there. I mean, Tyron Smith was kind of like that like 6 years ago, and then he had the back issues and everything else, and kind of slowed down a little bit. Still very serviceable, but like Trent Williams, like with his speed, his quickness, his strength, his mobility, just everything that he can do, just so fun to watch, especially from like an O-line perspective. Just the way he just bodies people.
Yeah, and Kyle Shanahan does chaotic stuff like putting him at fullback or putting him in motion. Like he did that against the Packers, and it was like a 3-yard gain, but he absolutely killed a guy. You cannot. It should be illegal to put Trent Williams in motion. I'm sorry, that's not allowed.
It's not about the gain. It's about the fact that guy is going to be shook for the next 5
years. Exactly. Yeah.
They should have put him at quarterback in that championship game last year.
I would have loved that. I will never forget the look of fear in Christian McCaffrey's eyes when they were like basically like, "Hey man, you might be playing quarterback." But
yeah, he'd only been in the offense for like 4 weeks at that point.
Yeah, Trent Williams might be as good as everybody else on the line put together, which is something that I'm worried about. Actually, I take that back. Aaron Banks, you guys were talking about big athletic dudes. They took Aaron Banks in the second round in 2021, and they're like, yeah, he is way too heavy to do what we need him to do. And I'm like, why the hell did you draft him in the second round then? And then last year, they had him shed like 40 pounds. And for an interior offensive lineman, I gave him the highest praise that you can give an interior offensive lineman, which is I forgot he was there.
Yeah,
I forgot he was there because nobody was getting past him. He was making holes. He wasn't blowing blocks. I forgot he was there, and he was one of the best players. He is one of the best unsung players on the interior offensive line, I think, in the league because he was fantastic last year.
Aaron Banks is one of the people who has made me just realize sometimes you just can't make numbers work for players, like especially on the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of them. No matter how I look at whatever stats there are out there on him, it always comes up poorly. But I know I've seen him play and been like, that guy's pretty good.
Yeah,
so he's like I have to like ignore his PFF grades and his numbers about like pressures and what have you that's out there. I mean, offensive line is so limited from a number standpoint already, but like he just doesn't grade well anywhere. But I don't trust it anymore because I know he's good.
Yeah, I love stats. Like I'm a numbers nerd and all that stuff, but sometimes you just gotta trust the eye test. It's like sometimes you grade something out and you have to test it against something, and sometimes it's just wrong. Like there was a stat a couple of years ago where somebody was like, actually Aaron Donald's bad against run defense by this metric, and all I saw was, hey, I made a broken run defense metric. That's all I saw. You know, back in college, I was playing around with because I was gonna do fantasy baseball stuff first. And I was playing around making my own stats. I always checked. I said, is Mike Trout in the top 10 in this stat? If it was yes, okay, that stat's not a mess. And it's that same thing with PFF. Sometimes the stuff's just a mess and you just got to set it aside.
Yeah. And so let's kick it over to the defensive side. Man, Bosa, Armstead, and Hargrave.
Yep.
That caused some problems this year.
That's kind of all you need along the defensive line.
I mean, you're going to
be
able to tell where they're shifting always. So you can send pressure the other way and you're good, right?
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like Drake Jackson's going to come into his own and kind of put some balance on there. Cleveland Farrell, we'll see how he does with Wilkes, but it's just, I feel like, Bosa and Armstead, they are too much for offensive lines to handle, that it's like, go ahead, try to run away from them and see how that goes. Because they'll kick Armstead outside. Yeah, they'll kick Armstead inside, outside. Health is a big problem. It's been a problem with Eric Armstead for a while too, and same with Bosa. I mean, the guy came into the league hurt, so. But they make the holes, and for runs and stuff, that's Greenlaw, Warner, they do a great job of filling in. Same with Hufanga.
Just to clarify, I meant the 49ers will be able to tell which way the O-line is shifting at all times.
Sorry,
they'll be able to rush the other way.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch this D-line play, man. Now, how do you think Steve Wilkes, and if you're not if you don't know on Steve Wilkes, what his defense is that well, that's fine. But how do you think it's going to change from what D'Amico was doing to what he's doing? Any type of different coverages, or more pressure, less pressure? What do you see happening there?
One thing that Wilkes likes to do that D'Amico didn't really do and Saleh didn't really do is he likes the corner blitz a lot more out of nickel. He likes the nickel blitz a lot more. And I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out, because we have a new nickel. It's going to be Jair Brown, who there's this hybrid. Yeah. Well, the Niners have this like nickel safety role that they have.
Yeah.
So it's what Jimmy Ward played. Yeah, like a dime backer, but it's also the dude is also more like a linebacker as well. So it's kind of like almost like a joker role. And I got to see how that works, because if Jair Brown can pull that off, then I think it'll be great. But I also think that the 49ers, one of the things that the Niners have done, and this is why you see Niners offensive, defensive coordinators all around the league, is they have a system. You come in, you learn the system, you execute the system. It doesn't matter what you did before. This is your system now. So I think that Steve Wilkes will put his own flavor, his own flair on it. But there's a 49ers defensive scheme that's built around the players that they have. It's why they replaced Jimmy Ward with Brown. It's because when they let Jimmy Ward go, I was like, man, that is an unsung part of how this defense rolls. Everybody's a thumper. And
can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Where did Jimmy Ward go?
Actually, I'm not 100% sure. Oh yeah,
Houston?
he went. Yeah.
What went with D'Amico?
Yeah, that's right.
I honestly didn't know Jimmy Ward was gone until we got on here.
Yeah, I knew he left. I couldn't remember where he went, because I was just like, oh boy, that's bad. But,
I just had to chime in real quick.
But I really think that it's one of those things where if you take out one leg, the whole table falls. So if you kind of change things too much, you're going to have some trouble. So I think it's going to be a lot of the same schemes as last year. Maybe the blitzes are going to come from different places. But the Niners mostly got home. Their main blitzers were going to be Warner and Hufanga. And I have no data to back that up. That's just anecdotal. There wasn't a lot coming from the corner. But they also didn't, Jimmy Ward was the only one who could really do that. And he didn't like to do it a lot. So
that makes sense. So, I mean, the rest of this roster's, the roster is pretty clean on the defensive side. I don't see a lot that I really have that many questions about.
It's definitely one of the best rosters in football outside of quarterback.
The one spot that just eats at my soul is trusting that Tashawn Gibson is good.
Ooh, Tashawn Gibson. I cannot. Every time that man is on the football field, I watch him. I'm like, that guy is good. But then I remember it's Tashawn Gibson. But it's it works. It's that thing where every part of the table leg supports every other table leg. And it's Tashawn Gibson, he's just kind of, I think Hufanga and I think Ward in front of him, they kind of clear him up to just do his thing. And doing his thing, he plays a decent center field, he'll get a decent amount of picks and stuff, but if he's got to lead the defense, or if something happens to Hufanga and it's him and I don't even know who's the other, who's the backup. I guess technically it'd be Brown. I mean, technically it'd be Brown, and
they got him and Miles Hartsfield is who I got written down here.
Okay, so it's like I don't know how much I trust that, because Gibson, it makes me nervous. It makes me nervous, but this is a great second act for him. I think it's a great second act for Gibson. It's just, that's a huge prop to John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, because I remember the COVID year. That's when they expanded practice squads, and they signed to Sean Gibson to the practice squad. I was like, wow, that guy has fallen really far. But they just kind of brought him along slowly, and I guess they kind of rebuilt him as a player. And he's actually, if you cover up the name, like, that's a pretty good player. But I think a lot of that has to do with scheme too. But they hide him a lot is basically what it comes down to.
Yeah, because when he was in Chicago, it was like him and one other guy were who quarterbacks picked on. They were like, why would I throw at Eddie Jackson or Kyle Fuller or Jalen Johnson? I'll throw at these guys.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just like, and it was like just busted coverages, which might, more come down to coaching than anything. If they were trying to ask him to do stuff that was not very clear, they only repped a few times in practice, that could be tough. But I mean, all the credit to Gibson. He's turned it around, and he's playing good football now.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's take a look at the schedule and see. Let's just run through it and see where we got these guys sitting at.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Look at
the schedule. Let us know in the comments who you think is going to win that NFC West. And
I mean, it's a two-team race.
What the totals are? It might be. I mean, don't sleep on the Cardinals.
Oh, I'm in a coma on the Cardinals.
Hey.
I mean, come on.
The Cardinals.
Clayton Tune? Clayton Tune, let's go.
I love Clayton Tune coming out of Houston. But we're not talking about Clayton Tune. We're talking about San Francisco 49ers.
Okay.
Talking about this strength schedule. Strength schedule is 28, one of the lowest in the leagues. Obviously, whenever you're in a weak division, your strength schedule is going to be lower. And let's just kind of break this down starting week 1. Go to Pittsburgh, go to LA. Then you have Giants and Arizona coming to you. Pretty good start to the season if you're a 49ers fan and you don't know who your quarterback's going to be. If maybe Brock Purdy is your guy and he misses a couple of weeks, like, not the worst weeks to miss there.
Mm-hmm.
But so we're starting out that 4-game stretch right there. Like, what are you looking at? Like, what are you worried about? Like, does Pittsburgh worry you week 1 going to Pittsburgh? Like, Kenny Pickett and the boys, like, Mike Tomlin's one of the best coaches in the league, like, always seems to figure it out no matter what. Like, does that week 1 game scare you a little bit? It's like last year or whatever, they went to the Bears and the Bears had the rain parade. Like, are you worried about the rain parade here in week 1?
The 49ers do everything as chaotically as possible. There's something that I sometimes say where if the 49ers were to go 16-1, they would lose the first week, because they got to start off the year as poorly as possible. And it's not Kenny Pickett that worries me. I don't know who the quarterback is, but I know that on the other side, you got TJ Watt coming for you. You got Minka Fitzpatrick ready to pick off 2 passes, no matter who's back there. And
Mike Tomlin.
And Mike Tomlin will
the king of one-liners.
Yeah.
You give me red paint and I'll paint that barn red.
But that's the one that worries me. That, and honestly, Niners do struggle with running quarterbacks. That Danny Dimes game, that Giants game, if they keep it up, what Brian Dable did last year with them, if they keep it up, that's one that kind of worries me. Home opener. It's a Thursday night game, short week. Luckily, they're only coming up from LA, and the Giants, they got to travel cross country. So that one doesn't worry me as much. But if I had to rank my worries, I would not say it's the Cardinals at all in top 4. Yeah. Sorry. And I would not say it's the Rams with I'm pretty sure I'm starting at nickel corner for the Rams in week 2. Cause I don't know who is on their defense other than Aaron Donald.
I could probably start with the Rams at this point.
Yeah.
So obviously best case scenario is 4-0 in this, this first 4 weeks. Realistically, are you happy with a 2-2, a 3-1 start here?
Realistically, I am ecstatic with the 3-1 start.
Okay.
Especially with all the questions surrounding the quarterback. And I will be reaching for the antacids if it's 2-2, because it means that either the Niners lost to the Rams, which they don't do, or they lost to the Cardinals or the Giants, which makes me worried about their long-term prospects. If they drop one to the Steelers, fine. Like, that's, like you said, Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin makes everything work. So if they're 2-2, I'm struggling. If they're 3-1, I'm very happy. If they're 4-0, I'm dancing in the streets.
Yeah, and then we go to your next four going into the bye. You have Dallas that you don't have to worry about. That's an easy win. Then you have going to Cleveland, going to Minnesota. Minnesota's the biggest frauds in the NFL last year. And then you get Cincinnati coming into town before your bye week. Cincinnati's got to worry you a little bit. Minnesota, I wouldn't be worried about. Cleveland, I wouldn't be worried about. Dallas is an easy win. So like that's another 3-1 stretch coming.
I would
to you.
actually,
So
I would say
you're talking 6-2 going into the bye.
I would give them 5-3. I think they're going to drop one of the Cowboys or the Browns.
They're not
just because the Niners do stupid things sometimes. They have every
Niners to Dallas.
That's fair. So they're going to lose to Cleveland in Cleveland.
I'm a Cowboys fan. You're not gonna, I promise you, you're not going to lose to Dallas.
I think we're both trying to reverse jinx the other one. Like,
I don't. The only time I've ever seen the Dallas Cowboys beat the 49ers in my lifetime is when Tony Romo broke his rib and punctured his lung, and he just like went out there and balled out because Tony Romo's the baddest motherfucker to ever play the game, and went out there with a collapsed lung and a broken rib and just like did the thing in 2011. So.
Yeah, that game, I actually have a really funny story. Just a complete side tangent. It's one of my favorite stories at Candlestick. So I was at that game with my wife's family. My mother-in-law accidentally kicks over a guy's beer because there's no cup holders in Candlestick. And you're supposed to put your beer all the way to the back. And he didn't do that. And he freaks out. She has no idea this is happening. I'm like, hey, man, sorry. Here's $10, for a beer, whatever. And he says, no, you have to go get it. I'm like, I'm not going to do that, man. Like, you had your beer in the wrong spot. You're lucky you're getting $10 or whatever. And so he pulls anything. Yeah, he pulls out a wad of cash. He's like, I don't need your fucking money. And so he takes my $10, he rips it and throws it at me. And I'm like, okay, so I still have my $10. You don't have a beer. What did you accomplish here? So that's one of my favorite stories. Sorry, it was at that Tony Romo game in 2011. So that's one of my favorite
that was
stories.
a legendary Tony Romo game.
Yeah. So I would give them 2-2 because they're gonna drop the Bengals game. I think that this passing offense
Bengals are
much.
good. I love the Bengals this year.
Yeah, they're gonna drop the Bengals game. I agree. Minnesota Vikings, biggest frauds in the history of the NFL last year, and they sold the farm. They sold everything. So that's an easy dub. And then one of Cleveland or Dallas, they're gonna lose. I think they're gonna get swept by Ohio this year.
Okay.
So that gives them 5-3.
Yep,
5-3. They're coming off the bye. You got a surging Jacksonville team with a red hot Trevor Lawrence, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And then this Tampa team, we haven't talked about NFC South yet. A Baker scorned is a Baker to be worried about.
Baker might be benched by that point. It might be Kyle Trask.
Hey, if there's one thing we know, it's that angry Baker is capable of impossible things.
Yes. I would not sleep on that Tampa Bay team, I'll tell you that much. But then you have your first Seattle game going to Seattle. If they're good right there, that crowd's going to be red hot. Thursday night football, coming off a short week after going to Tampa Bay, or after Tampa Bay coming to you, I'm sorry. It could be tough. And then Philly's an easy win. Philly's trash. Most overrated team in the league. Jalen Hurts, trash.
We're gonna get
Seattle again.
Purdy part 2. Let's go.
Yeah, Hurts is trash. So, but yeah, this next stretch of the schedule after the bye, how do you feel about that? I like the way your schedule breaks. All in all, for a first place schedule,
it's not bad.
You play who you play in a schedule, and the way it breaks, if you break it down into quarters, it's not a bad break.
This is probably the toughest stretch. Seattle twice and the Eagles. I think the Niners will handle the Jags. I think they'll handle the Buccaneers. They're going to drop one of the Seahawks games. Niners do not win in Seattle. It's one of the rules of the NFL. Like the NFC West always breaks the same direction with the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Niners. Doesn't matter if they're good or not. The Rams always beat the Seahawks always beat the Niners, and the Niners always beat the Rams. It's just how it works. So they're going to drop the Seahawks game. And the Philly game, I'll give it to the Niners. There you go. Just for you. Just for the Cowboys fan there. And then they'll win the Seattle game. So I'm going to give them a cautious 4-1 in this stretch.
4-1. So we're at 4-1, right. 3-1, and 2-2.
Yeah, 9-4.
9-4 going into the final stretch.
Yeah.
We got Arizona, Baltimore, Washington, Rams. So Baltimore's gonna be tough. I like Lamar a lot.
I love Lamar. I think Lamar is one of the most, for a guy who already won MVP. I don't understand why people are still saying that he has to prove something. I don't get it. He's incredible. He's amazing. So that's the one that the Niners lose in this stretch. The Baltimore Ravens. The rest, trash jokes. Get them out of here.
So we're at 13-4.
Yep.
Okay. So if I'm breaking down the schedule, I'm
No, we're 12-5. 12-5.
12-5. So you like the over on wins.
Mm-hmm.
If you're asking me, I'm going under on wins. I think they lose to Arizona once. I think they lose to Dallas. I think they lose to Philadelphia. I know
Dallas. You spent 10 minutes trying to convince me that they weren't going to lose to Dallas. That's brain versus heart right there.
Trying to be objectively unobjective here.
That's right.
I do like the pieces Dallas added to that offense. I think they're a more complete team at this point in the season. I think some of San Francisco's best players have a history of getting injured playing Dallas that late into the season. I think they could be missing a few guys. I still think San Francisco's going to be the better team, and if they meet in the playoffs, Dallas will probably lose again. But that part of the schedule, Dallas is usually hitting their stretch, and then playing Philly that late in the season. Philly is just a wagon at this point. They have depth on depth on depth. I mean, the way they manage the salary cap is wizard like. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. And then I am higher on some of the division opponents than you are. I do think Arizona can steal a game or two. I think this is a 9 or a 10 win team. I'll take the under 10.5 if you're forcing me to take a total. I'll take 9.5 or 10. So I'll take under 10.5 there. What do you think, Q?
Yeah, I mean, I'd avoid it because I see them right around 10, maybe
11.
I'm the same way. I feel like Vegas nailed it, so I'm just like, I don't want to bet it. You know, if I'm going to bet it, I might take the under. I might. It's tough. Yeah. Honestly, if I'm doing anything,
I think the best value here
probably is NFC champs.
Yeah,
I think that's the best value on the board.
Plus 350. I think that's a great value because, I mean, you look at the rest of the NFC, you're going to be going against Dallas. You're going to be going against Philly. You're going to be going against the NFC South champions who maybe the Panthers. Like, I don't know who that's going to be. And then NFC North, I mean, not a whole
Lions. Let's go. Dan Campbell.
NFC North.
That's what I said. Lions.
Oh. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, Lions are definitely going to be there. Lions are definitely going to be tough. But, I mean,
so you know, Jeff, our motto for the last 2 years has been don't sleep on the Lions. So we're finally moving on. We're looking for a new team now.
Yeah,
we're part of this series picking which one.
One of my co-hosts is
a
huge Lions fan, massive Lions fan, and I'm a Kings fan. And I've told Walker Kelly, one of my co-hosts for years, that the Kings and the Lions are the same team in different sports. And I said, hey man, I sat there and I said, I am bestowing the beam team to the Lions. They are the new beam team. They can have this. So I think they're winning the NFC North. They're going to do it this year. So I'm real happy about that.
Lions have everything they need. I mean, Jared Goff is top 15 quarterback. No doubt.
He's definitely top 25. Somewhere between 15 and 25. I'll give you that. He's in the same group as Jimmy Garoppolo. They're all destined to be if
he's in the same group as Josh Allen.
Stop that. He's good. I like Josh Allen. I like Justin Herbert. You're not going to make me besmirch either of those guys. Jared Goff, I can besmirch all the time. Like old Rams, Jared Goof, I can pull that Niners NFC West stuff out.
Went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So did Jimmy Garoppolo.
Multiple.
All right, Jeff. So if you're a betting man, what do you like on here, if anything?
What's your best value here? What are you taking? 10.5 is probably even odds. You got playoffs at minus 500 if you take yes. Winning the division at minus 175. NFC champs at plus 350 and Super Bowl champs at plus 850.
Honestly, I'm with you guys on NFC champs. I got them to 12 wins. I don't feel great about Dallas. I don't feel great about Philly. I went balls out on Philly just to make you happy, Jay. And you talked me into Dallas. So it's like, so I don't like.
Probably will win that Dallas game. I almost promise you're going to win that game.
Well, I sure hope so. But NFC champ, the NFC is just it's not very strong. Like you look,
it's not very strong, but it's not weak either.
Yeah, but it's not like you can just pencil in like, okay, the Chiefs and the Bengals, those guys are gonna go. Those are probably your AFC Championship contenders. Like there's a group of teams for the NFC, and the Niners are in that group, and the value there is great because the quarterback is problems right now. I think that's why the value is so good there. I also don't think that any quarterback in that room is winning them the Super Bowl. So they could get all the way to the Super Bowl. I just don't think they're going to win it. And it's Philly and the Niners and the Seahawks. I honestly think are the best three teams in the
NFC. So we have the Niners versus the Texans in the Super Bowl. Who's winning?
Niners. They know everything that's wrong with DeMeco Ryans.
You think they're going to beat CJ Stroud in the boys though?
I hope so. I would never show my face. I would never show my face again if the Niners lost to the Houston Texans in the Super Bowl. I don't know, man. My first NFL, one of my first NFL memories was them beating the Chargers. So I had this idea that the Niners won Super Bowls all the time, and I've watched them lose two. I don't think I could watch them lose a third one to CJ Stroud.
Hey, you say that like he's a scrub.
He's not a scrub, but he's a rookie.
Yeah,
he's a rookie. 2025, I won't worry about it. 2023, the Niners lose Super Bowl to a rookie quarterback. I'm just going to walk west till I hit the ocean and keep going. You'll never see me again.
Wait, was Russell Wilson a rookie when he won it?
No, he was a rookie whenever he lost in the NFC Championship game.
Okay. I believe so. I believe that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Lost in the NFC Championship game to, I believe, was it Russ or to Rodgers?
It was Green Bay. Green Bay had their number for years. So
when Green Bay won the championship,
no, because they played the Bears in the NFC Championship that year.
All right,
Green Bay won it.
Russ's rookie year.
I don't think they lost one.
Oh, they lost to Atlanta. It was that year. His rookie year.
Okay. All right. Well, anyways, it's time for some Seahawks talk. Jeff, you want to stick around?
I'll stick around. Let's talk Seahawks.
All right.
Sea chickens, as they're called around my household.
We like to call them dirty birds of the Pacific Northwest. So
we gotta fire through the rest of this division. We just spent an hour on.
Yeah, we got to fly through these. So Seahawks. I mean, I like a lot of this offense. Like adding JSN to Metcalf and Lockett, I think is very, very strong. I am a little bit concerned about Geno, though. I mean, so the more you dive into his numbers, the more you're kind of like, I don't know. He had the sixth most turnover-worthy plays in the NFL last year. He only threw, I think it was like 12 interceptions with a ton more drop picks and stuff like that. Yeah. It might have been a little fluky. We'll find out. This rushing offense should be nasty. with Kenneth
yeah,
Walker, Zach Charbonnet. The O-line really started to figure it out down the stretch for them last year. Like I was the most wrong a human can be on the Seahawks at this time last year when I thought they were number one pick worthy because they were starting two rookie left tackle, right tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw nothing that they could do to fix that, but
And
I was wrong. Those guys.
And at this
performed.
time last year, it was a Drew Lock, Geno Smith camp battle, which
Yeah.
you know, that's what they show on loop in hell. Is that camp battle?
But so, go ahead, Jay.
So when you look at this offense and you said adding Jackson Smith and Jigba was my favorite wide receiver in this draft. That kind of goes down a little bit. I like Jordan Addison a whole lot more moving forward in that Minnesota offense, but that's neither here nor there. I think Zach Charbonnet coming out of UCLA is a much bigger addition than JSN in this offense. I think Kenneth Walker is very one-dimensional. And I think he had a great rookie year, but getting injured down the stretch, I wouldn't be surprised one bit if Charbonnet becomes the 1-1 for this role and takes over this backfield. And if Geno Smith can just be the Geno Smith of last year, where for somehow, some way, he just keeps getting it done. I mean, I don't see any reason why this team can't win nine games.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a bit more of a Geno believer, given that there's a lot of stink on Geno Smith because of what he went through his career. You know, he got punched in the face. Nobody cared of the Jets. Yeah, got his jaw broken. Then he floated around the league.
Made a guy famous that was
IK Inikpala,
practice squad guy. Yeah.
There's no reason anybody should remember that name except for he punched Geno Smith in the face and broke his jaw. But I was listening. I think it was around the NFL. They were talking about how Geno Smith, he kind of learned from every quarterback that he learned under, or that he backed up after he left the Jets, and he backed up Eli Manning. Whether you like it or not, Hall of Famer. Maybe not by talent, by accolades though. Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers,
French guy.
I mean, they're both Hall of Very Good at least.
Oh yeah.
You know, guys who had great long careers. Russell Wilson. These
one
are
of the greatest drafts ever.
Yeah, I mean those two, Big Ben. Matt Schaub, was Matt Schaub in that draft?
I
don't think I know what off the top of my head what draft Matt Schaub was in, so I'll just trust you on that.
The safety for Washington, Sean Taylor was in that draft.
Yeah, it was a good draft. But I mean, he learned from these guys, and this could be an actual like second act for Geno Smith, like a la Alex Smith had. You know, Alex Smith, he didn't float around the league as a backup for a long time, but he was regarded kind of the same way as Geno Smith was before Jim Harbaugh came to San Francisco. And, you know, Jim Harbaugh kind of calmed him down, got him on the right path. And then Andy Reid made him keep Patrick Mahomes on the bench for a year. So, I mean, he was a decent quarterback.
Might be Andy Reid's biggest mistake of his career, though.
Possibly. I mean, who knows? But people forget, too, Pat Mahomes was kind of a turnover monster in college. And so I think that if Alex Smith isn't on that roster, Pat Mahomes isn't who he is right now.
To be clear, you are talking to two guys who watched every single game of Pat Mahomes' career live because we both went to Texas Tech.
Okay. Yeah. So you guys know he was kind of a turnover monster for a little bit.
No, he was having to throw the ball 65 times a game because our defense couldn't stop him.
That's fair too. That's entirely fair.
He was in some rough spots, but
when your arm's dying, you still got to chuck it 60 yards downfield. I mean, you're gonna have some balls will die on you.
Didn't have the best receivers to work with either.
That's true.
But so anyways, on that note about the receivers, like one thing, like there are some things in Geno's numbers that really worry me, but when your receivers are this good, I'm not sure it's gonna matter. Like that's where I'm like hitting a hard place with thinking about Geno, because I think receivers become so much more important in NFL offenses. Each of the last few years just become like exponentially more important. Mm-hmm. And I think when you got DK Metcalf saving bad throws, does it really matter that it was a bad throw? Like, I mean,
when you have JSN stepping into a role of wide receiver 3, when he's one of the most talented route runners with some of the best hands we've seen come out of the draft in a long time, playing wide receiver 3, you have Noah Fant, who's ceiling is through the roof. I mean, he hasn't really done anything yet, but I mean, has the potential to do it.
Got a block to play for Pete.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
only thing. Yeah, but I mean, I was gonna say, how much is an interceptable pass really an interceptable pass when DK Metcalf is on the other side?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
and that helps a lot. And JSN, I love JSN coming out. The problem was that we got bored of JSN, and then he didn't really play last year, so people forgot how good he was.
He was incredible. I mean, he might have been the best receiver on that Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave team.
He 100% was. That's the thing.
I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been on JSN train for a long time,
Yeah.
and then this past year, Marvin Harrison breaks out, and they're like, "Well, how good is JSN really if Marvin Harrison can go do this?" And I'm like, "Okay, like let's not knock a guy because Ohio State recruits really good receivers."
Yeah. I mean that's wide receiver U right now. It's like them and LSU are just like they're churning out studs always.
So outside the offense, I mean, we don't need to talk that much more about the O-line. They have bookend tackles you feel good about for the future. So I mean, I can just leave it at that. This defense, I think this year is going to be pretty damn good, even though there's questions on the D line. Like getting Bobby Wagner back in here, who was still like, he's not the same guy he was, but he's still one of the better linebackers in the NFL. And he's coming back to the Legion of Boom here. You get one of the best corners in the draft across from Tariq Woolen, who, I mean, he was impressive as a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the other thing I said about them last year. They're starting 2 rookies at quarterback too. Like, how can they be good?
That wasn't bad either.
Pete Carroll is like, I don't know who he made a deal with, but they did so damn well last year for how many rookies they played. Kobe Bryant played well for them out of the nickel. They're getting Blitz Boy back up at safety. Like, this is a stacked back 7 on the defense. If the D-line can be decent,
they're an incredible linebacker.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jordan Brooks. And then also Quandre Diggs, which to quote my co-host, every team needs a little bit of an asshole, and that's Quandre Diggs. So, I mean, it's Legion of Boom 2.0. Like, if Jamal Adams, like you called him Blitz Boy, if they don't have to have him actually play in coverage and he can just be in the box and blitzing and all that, this is a team that, like I said, they're a top 3 team in the NFC this year.
They might be. I mean, this defense is going to be sick. And then they added Julian Love, too. I don't even know what they're going to do with him, but Julian Love was awesome for the Giants.
Yeah, they're all in all spots. They're just deep. That's the problem on defense for other teams. So
yeah.
So you want to go to the schedule breakdown for the
Seahawks? Let's roll through their schedule.
All right. So we have open of the week, open the season Los Angeles, then going to Detroit. Carolina coming to them, and then going to the Giants. They have an early bye, which is one of the things I hate about a schedule release is early bye. And then coming off that, going to Cincinnati, then Arizona coming home, Cleveland coming home, going to Baltimore, going to Washington. Let's just break down that first half of the schedule right there, because I think that's pretty tough for them having the early bye. Then going to Detroit week 2. Detroit opens the season at Kansas City. And I expect Detroit to be one of the better teams in the NFL this year. And I'm expecting them to lose week 1. So Detroit looking for their first win week 2 at home. That's a tough draw right there.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to beat Detroit in Detroit. Then, if it was in Seattle, I'd be on the other side. But
Carolina's a very, very well structured team. And if Bryce Young can do Bryce Young things, that might be a tough game. And then Brian Daboll's just proven he's a terrific coach. So it's a pretty tough 4-game stretch to start out with Seattle there going into the bye week.
Yeah, the thing with I feel good about them against the Rams. I feel good against Carolina. Detroit, I'm toss up. I'm giving to the home team. The Giants, I have a hard time because we haven't looked at the NFC East yet, and I don't know what they've added on defense. If Wink has got a bit more of a squad, I start to worry a little more because I think he's going to get. He always gets wild with those guys, but if Wink Martindale might get a bit of an edge there, I think this defense is going to give Daniel Jones a tough time. because they just got athletes all over and they might be able to neutralize his mobility, especially with a guy like Julian Love, who was with the Giants last year, coming back in. I think he might be having a big game. But so I think I'm going to end up giving that to Seattle. So I see him at 3-1 going into the bye.
My only worry about giving the Giants giving Seattle the win against the Giants is Seattle's got to go cross country and the Giants are on a long week. They play on Thursday Night Football in week 3. But I think that's more than offset by you look at the wide receiver core for the Giants and then you look at the defensive backfield for the Seahawks, and it's a complete mismatch just across the board. They're going to get overpowered. Now, is this game going to be ugly? Is it going to be a defensive slugfest? I think so. I'll give it to the Giants. I'll give it to the Seahawks over the Giants, but it'll be an ugly game. I'll also have them losing to Detroit.
Not a very appealing Monday Night Football game.
No, it's not.
Seattle, New York, week 4. So
gross.
And then the next stretch there, Cincy, I don't see him going into Cincinnati and winning. Arizona, I think Arizona's going to give folks a harder time than they expect this year, but ultimately I think Seattle's going to beat them. Cleveland in Seattle. I'm taking Seattle there. That's going to be a dogfight, though.
Cleveland can run the ball.
And then at Baltimore, I'm going to give it to Baltimore. So I see him 2-2 in that stretch.
Same. I got Cincy and Baltimore. Those are some tough road games to deal with. So.
Yeah.
Then we have Washington, LA, back-to-back Thursday Night Football games with San Francisco and Dallas.
Thanksgiving is in there somewhere.
Yeah, so that 4-game stretch, I mean, I could see them going 3-1 in that stretch. I mean, I could definitely see them losing to either Washington or the Rams, and I think they lose both that San Francisco-Dallas game. So, what are y'all's thoughts on it?
I gotta be intellectually honest and say I had the Niners losing to them. So I had the Niners beating them. Nope, I had the Niners losing to them. Told you both it was a long day. Had the Niners losing to them. So I had them beating the Niners. So I'm gonna give them 3-1 in that stretch as well.
I was gonna say 2-2, but I'm gonna trust you, Jeff, that the 49ers just lose to Seattle.
They don't win in Seattle.
I'll give them 3-1.
They've won one game in Seattle in the last decade. So,
all right, then immediately back to San Francisco, Philly, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Arizona. So, assuming that they split with San Francisco, that's a win. Philly, trash organization, trash team. That's an easy win for them. Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Arizona. They could win all those. They could close out the season strong.
I'm gonna have them going 3-2. I think they lose to the Niners, lose to the Eagles. Sorry.
3-2, and I think that they're going to lose.
I think they're closer to 2-3.
Yeah, well, that's what I was about to say. And 3-2, but I think that they're going to lose a game somewhere in here. Pittsburgh, Tennessee, like one of these.
Both of those teams are both so well coached.
Like I think they're going to lose one that you don't expect. So that puts them at 10 wins for me.
Yeah. So when I'm looking at their futures here, I'm probably not looking at the over/under here, 9 wins. I think that's pretty right on. I think they could win anywhere between 8 and 10. But what I do love for this team is winning the division at 2-1 odds, because when you look at the San Francisco team, question marks at the quarterback position, and then on top of some of their best players historically don't stay the healthiest. Seattle's just so well coached. Like I wouldn't mind taking a stab at 2-1 odds at winning the division right there. Like I think value wise, that's absolutely the best bet here.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's the best bet. If you like over-unders, I hate them because why am I tying up my money for 4 months on minus money? Like, I just don't see the point of it. But if you want over-unders, this is an over I'd take, because you can push on the 9. You don't have the half. I think that's fair. Like, I will take that.
Yeah, all you got to do is hit 9 games, and we already talked about there's 10 winnable games for them there. So that'd be like I would have to be making like a 2-unit play right there for me to take the total. But yeah, it would be the over there if I'm taking it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of partial to. I mean, plus 1600. I know I took the Niners to win it, but NFC champ. I mean, I put them as one of the top 3 teams in the NFC.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean,
If one of your top 3 teams
yeah.
in the NFC are getting 16-1,
16-1 odds,
that's
you gotta
easy. It's
Yeah.
easy money. You gotta hammer it.
Yeah, so I mean, I just don't see any team that's not the Niners, the Seahawks, or the Eagles coming out of the NFC this year. So
I mean, you're a Jalen Hurts injury away from the NFC just being like, who's the quarterback in the Super Bowl? Like,
yeah, you might have Geno Smith versus Sam Darnold, and the winner goes
Let's
to
not
the
act
Super
like
Bowl.
the Cowboys didn't make some great additions this offseason, guys.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh,
I
man.
forgot Dak. I'd put Dak ahead of like the field.
I'm very pessimistic, but like
I am down.
You're saying the Seattle's better than the Cowboys here?
I am very down.
My homerism might have to come out a little bit here.
I'm down on the Cowboys for the main reason of they swapped out Kellen Moore for Brian Schottenheimer. And
okay, you didn't watch Cowboys games if you don't. I mean, I don't even care about Brian Schottenheimer, but Kellen Moore was atrocious in
Brian Schottenheimer.
Situations.
Brian Schottenheimer is one of the worst offensive coordinators in the history of the NFL, and I will stand behind that. He is, wherever he went, he was god awful.
It's a good thing Mike McCarthy's calling plays.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy's calling plays. Super Bowl champion.
Okay, never mind. In that case,
who's your Super Bowl champion?
Not nobody.
That's what I thought.
I was gonna say Kyle Shanahan, and I was like, nope, 28-3. Never mind. Forgot I said anything there.
Yeah.
No, Jay, I'll give you Dak there. I was like racking my brains, like Jalen Hurts and there's one other quarterback who's like above the field in the NFC.
Beefed up the defense. CeeDee Lamb's about to make a huge step. Tony Pollard's a fucking beast. Brought in multiple.
Well, I was just talking quarterback.
Yeah, but we'll get to. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pound the drum for the Cowboys, but I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like Seattle's in a better position to make a run than the boys. So just had to give my 2 cents there.
All right, Jeff, you want to stick around to talk some Arizona Cardinals?
Sure, I'll hang around.
All right, so
You're having fun.
I'm having a great time. So
I'm oddly intrigued.
I like this team.
Roster.
I like this team.
Like, I don't think they're making the playoffs or anything crazy like that.
They
but
might.
I do not think this is the worst team in football. I just don't. Like, going through this roster top to bottom, they have guys who have played in the NFL at every position. They are not nobodies. They are not XFL players all over this roster. They have guys who have proven that they belong in the NFL, which I think automatically is going to get them 5 wins, something like that. Like, even without a good quarterback, I just think they got quality. And they don't have star talent, but they have guys that are just going to get them close enough to win more games than people want to give them right now, is the way that I'm looking at it. Like, I think the new coach boost that you get, like, I look at this O-line, DJ Humphries is a quality player. Paris Johnson Jr. is going to be playing left guard, and I think he's NFL ready as a guard. I thought he had some development at tackle, but as a guard, I feel good about him. Frohold at center, I mean, I don't know anyone who knows that much about Hajalt Frohold, but like, he played decently last year. Not good, but you can get by with him with the towers at left guard and right guard around him in Johnson and Will Hernandez, who Hernandez had a bit of a bounce back last year after really just being a disappointment thus far in his career. And Beachum is a quality right tackle. So you're talking about an O-line that I actually feel pretty good about, with Marquise Brown proven in this league as a quality player. Not a star.
Yeah.
They're extremely void of star talent, but they have average players at a lot of spots.
Zach Ertz can go out there and give him 70 catches for 650 yards and 8 touchdowns.
Well, he's coming off the torn ACL, But
I like Trey McBride.
Trey McBride started to do some stuff down the stretch.
Yeah, I think he won the Mackey his last year. He was kind of supposed to develop behind Zach Ertz and then come in this year. I like Trey McBride this year. I think he might be the second best receiver on this team, to be honest with you, considering Zach Ertz is coming off of injury.
Then yeah, Clayton Tune, the quarterback coming out of Houston under Dana Holgerson, might just go ahead and take that starting job right out of Kyler Murray's hands.
Yeah, we got a quarterback controversy.
Dude can sling it.
I mean, so this offense, like, it's a Shanahan Stefanski type scheme, like really Kubiak, I guess is who you'd say. From. But so you're going to see them get this O-line. It's an athletic O-line out in space. They're going to run play action off it. And, I mean, Rondale Moore's not a downfield threat. We know that. But he's fast. Marquise Brown is fast. Greg Dortch is really freaking fast. And
Zach Pascal, you never
have
know.
Opportunities for big plays if they can get that run game moving.
This is one of the teams that I'm fully on board of, like, slapping the tag of, like, don't sleep on them.
I think that people are talking about the Cardinals like they're only going to win like 3 games, and that's
and that's my point.
That's an insanely difficult thing to do in the NFL, like you said.
With a one total of 4.5, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that's that's like you said, they're not XFL guys everywhere. It's a difficult thing to do to not win 5 or 6 games, a handful of games in this league, and I kind of like to clown on the Cardinals mostly because they're NFC West rivals, but I really like Hollywood Brown, and I loved Zach Ertz last year. I really like Trey McBride. You, Jay, seem to be a big fan of Clayton Tune, so I'll take your word for it. I'm not a huge.
I don't think he's gonna. I don't actually think he's gonna start. I loved him coming out of the draft as like a sleeper type guy. That if he falls into the right system, I really did like him. I'm not saying he's going to come in here and like light the league up, but
if Shanahan got his hands on him, watch out.
Oh, look out! He could be the next Nick Bolins.
He was one of my like favorite if your team drafts this guy in like the 6th or 7th round, and then like 2 years later he like pops up, like he can sling it. So I'm not sitting here saying Clayton Tune's like the guy, but he was one of my favorite like late round QBs to grab.
I unfortunately have him in a fantasy league, so that's a sicko.
Maybe
league.
Not unfortunately.
That's a sicko league. Well, it's because I had Kyler Murray, and then I was like, shit. All right, let me get Colt McCoy, and then nobody will trade me a quarterback, and it's like a 20-team one quarterback. Nobody will trade me a quarterback, so now I have 3 Cardinals quarterbacks. Nobody cares about your fantasy team. I'm sorry.
Hey, one of them will play.
I'll talk fantasy with you all day, brother. But yeah, that might not be a bad ad. But looking at the defense, I mean, Jonathan Simmons has been good. I guess he's making the switch to
Isaiah.
DB. What?
Wrong Simmons.
Isaiah Simmons.
You said Jonathan.
The Tennessee Titan.
Oh, I knew what I was trying to say when I said it. No, but yeah, Isaiah Simmons definitely making the switch fully to DB. Not going to be playing linebacker anymore this year, according to the coaching staff. It's been very, very, very good for him. And then, like, they've been making.
I mean, the D line is not like it's not good,
not bad,
but they have a few guys who can play the run strong. And I mean, Rashard Lawrence can't get after the passer for his life, but like he can just be a rock in the middle. Like he's shown that he can do a little bit of that. And I mean, honestly, I was a big fan of Dante Stills in the draft. He was one of my sleepers. I don't expect a 6th-round pick to walk into the NFL and start putting up numbers. But as a rotational undersized guy, I think they have a few guys like that who can play in a rotation well. And D-line ultimately does just come down to star talent, which, as I've said multiple times now, they don't have. But
none.
I feel like they have enough guys on this line to be able to play the run teams need to respect them against the run, which can force them into other situations.
I
and
also
help
feel
them
like
kind of slow the game down and play that ball control game, which is how bad teams win.
Yeah.
I also feel like Kyler Murray's not getting the respect that he deserves. I understand he's going to miss 6-7 games this year, but Kyler Murray was playing like an MVP level like a couple years ago until he wasn't. But still a very, very solid quarterback. Like a lot of teams would rather have a Kyler Murray than who they're starting at quarterback. So it's like if they can win 2 games before Kyler Murray comes back, you're telling me he can't win 3 more for to get that win total over 4.5? Like I find it hard to believe that doesn't happen.
Kyler Murray is very much a victim of the take economy. Like you're either an MVP or you're a clown. There's no in between, and he's in the in between. He's got some flaws to his game. I think he's a very good quarterback, but then he's small. He has things that you can easily clown on. He's small.
Very memeable.
Yeah. He's insanely memeable. He's screaming at DeAndre Hopkins on the sideline, looking like an angry child. The studying clause in his contract, the Call of Duty stuff. There's a lot
Cardinals
to clown.
Did this to themselves.
Yeah, there's a lot to clown on with Kyler Murray, and people forget that he's an insanely good quarterback. On top, behind all of that, and so I respect him. I respect him as an NFC West competitor. Also, a couple things.
I respect him as a Texas A&M quarterback.
Couple things. We can't go without talking about Budda Baker. Wanted out, and he's going to stay. I don't know how that's going to work out. He seems to be a very good leader. I think he's very much like, all right, I'm here, I'll do this, but that could be a problem for them. But I do like adding Kazir White through
Kazir White.
I think
side as well.
I think they're going to be able to do some really interesting stuff in the middle of the field with their coverages. Like, I mean, Jonathan Gannon he's a quarters guy, after he spent last year with and with Baker, Simmons, White, and Collins, you have 4 good coverage guys that you can kind of mix and match how you need to there. And Thompson, I mean, Jalen Thompson is not a bad safety either. I think Gannon's going to be able to get pretty creative with the back end of this defense, and it could be fun. Like, Baker is, I think a big reason why he suddenly is like, okay, no, I'll stay, is because he learned what his role was in this defense. He's like, this is going to be fun. Like, I think he's a really good fit for what they're going to be doing.
Yeah, and I actually really like them. I didn't know they moved Isaiah Simmons to nickel full time. That's going to be huge for him, because they were trying to have him. They're like, all right, so on this play, you're going to do everything. We don't know what you're going to do.
They were trying to give him the Micah Parsons role.
Exactly. They were trying to make him Micah Parsons, and it just did not work out.
I put him at nickel in this graphic. He played more nickel than anyone on the Cardinals defense last year, but he's really more of like just a versatile dime backer. Like, he's going to play mostly nickel, but like he's going to roam around a little too.
Yeah.
It's like Micah Parsons of the back 7, not the front 7.
Gotcha. Yeah. Isaiah said, our lads, which is who I use for depth charts, they also have him at nickel. So but I think you're right. He is going to be that kind of that hybrid safety instead of this, like, hey, you're going to rush the edge. You're going to play safety. You're going to play corner. You're going to be a linebacker on some, it was too much for him. It was just, he could do it in college. He just doesn't have it in him in the NFL. And sometimes, like I was saying with Brock Purdy, sometimes you just got to simplify things for guys and accentuate what they do well. So,
yeah. So let's take a look at the schedule here. Jay, you want to start it off?
Yeah, so whenever we look at the schedule, Washington, New York, Dallas, San Francisco, Cincinnati. So first 2 games, in my opinion, are toss-ups. So you could either start 2-0 or 1-2 there, 1-1. But I think you're losing the stretch of Dallas, San Francisco, Cincinnati right there. So best case scenario, you're 2-3. But if you're looking at the win total of 4.5, I mean, I think that's pretty good right there, because you have all offseason to plan for Washington. And then it's not like New York's like a bunch of world beaters out there, so it's like you could definitely start the season 2-0.
So I think it is.
Dallas is definitely a game you can win.
looking at the schedule, it is probably important to note that Kyler's recovery timeline has been, I've seen anywhere from week 5 to 2024. So who knows? But like, I'd assume somewhere around week 9, week 10, you'd have him back.
Yeah. So I'm saying you could maybe win 1 or 2 games in that first 4 stretch right there. Dallas notoriously loses to backup quarterbacks, and especially if Dallas is 3-0 going into that stretch somehow, Dallas has a pretty tough opening schedule. I can see Dallas going into that game 3-0 or 2-0 and losing to the Cardinals and like the whole world freaking out. So,
are you talking yourself at the Cardinals starting the season 3-0?
No.
Is this what I'm hearing?
I'm saying the Cardinals would be 0-2 in that scenario. And
okay. I misheard what you said. I was like, "Is this guy? Is she talking something?"
No.
And he's like, "And then they'll take down the Niners, and then they're gonna go 17-0, Clayton Tune. Let's go, baby."
No, I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised. I think best case scenario they go 1-3 in that first stretch, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go 2-2.
My guess is they're going to go 1-3. If I had to look at a team with a messier, more questionable situation, it is Washington. Like, they don't really have much of an identity. Like, their receivers are definitely better, but I don't know.
They're starting a quarterback they don't really know anything about.
Their biggest strength is going up against Arizona's biggest strength.
Yeah. I think that that game is going to be bad. And 2, I think that it's going to be an Arizona win, and I think that's enough to drive the league mad. People going, did we sell the Arizona Cardinals short, sort of thing.
Yeah. Every single year, a team that is supposed to be one of the worst in the NFL has a new coaching staff and goes out week 1 and shocks the world.
Even with Jonathan Gannon, Jonathan Gannon became one of the most memeable people in the offseason, and I still think he's a good coach. So, I mean, I think they could have a decent opening stretch to here, but then after that, San Fran, Cincy, Rams, Seattle. Like, that's a 1-3 stretch to me.
I think that's an 0-4 stretch.
I think they're going to beat the Rams twice.
Ooh. I was going to give them the Rams. I was going to give them the Rams at home.
No, the Rams are bad. Rams might be the worst roster in football.
But I don't know. I still believe in Matthew Stafford.
They still got those 2 guys.
Yeah, and Aaron Donald.
I think Arizona's going to beat them twice. We'll get to the Rams in a minute.
We'll get to the Rams here shortly, but yeah. But then after that stretch, Seattle, Baltimore, Cleveland, Atlanta, Houston. That might be another one win stretch.
I think they beat Houston and Rams in there, and then I think they are gonna upset one of Pittsburgh or Cleveland in their house.
It wouldn't surprise me.
And that gets them to 5, and that's the over.
We're already at the over.
Yeah, if I could pick one of those 2, I'd say Pittsburgh, just because I see Kenny Pickett as being flusterable. With this, we were talking about this defensive backfield. I think he could be flusterable, make some bad decisions. So,
yeah,
then
I agree with that.
San Francisco, Chicago, Philly, Seattle, not beating San Fran. At Chicago might be undefeated at that point, so they might.
If Kyler's back, I think Arizona takes that game. If Kyler is not back all season, that's Chicago.
I'd have to agree.
But Chicago might be undefeated at that season. They might not even care.
That's true. They might be.
You don't want to be undefeated. You go undefeated, you lose the Super Bowl.
You're undefeated to that point. So undefeated to that point. So
that'll be the one.
Justin Fields, 6,000 yards passing, 4,000 yards rushing.
I will take
10,000 yard season.
I will take the under.
I'll take the over. Imagine the odds.
Just for the juice.
Yeah,
imagine the odds.
You try to take that to a book, a house, and they're just like, man, I don't know. What odds do you want? I
got $1. Yeah. I got $1. No, Justin Fields. Might be the best quarterback in football. But we'll move on. So looking at that back end of the stretch, I'll give them one more win. I really like the over for this team. I don't know where we're gonna find the wins. Look at the schedule. There's a lot of they may win this one, they may not win this one. But 4.5, I mean, it's hard to lose that many games
especially
in the NFL.
when you don't have the incentive of going for Caleb. I mean, obviously you have the incentive imagine the picks we could get for that. But I don't know if they're actually going to just be all right, we're done with you, Kyler. We're going to get Caleb Williams now. If they're going to go into that mentality so much that they're just we need the number one pick.
Yeah. So, I mean, I usually don't like tying my money up into over and unders, but I might put 2 or 3 units on this over because I don't see them losing that many games. So
yeah, I think
I like the over 4.5 here.
Yeah, I think they're gonna push to win because, like you said, they're not going for number one, and even if they get number one, we just saw the haul that the Bears got. It was for what we've seen for number one in the past. I like DJ Moore. It was a little bit underwhelming. It's not like I'm gonna blow.
Well, there wasn't a Caleb Williams.
Exactly, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
But the only flip side to it is that the quarterback at the top is
Caleb Williams is the best prospect we've seen since Trevor Lawrence, and if the Jacksonville Jaguars would have traded that number one overall pick, it would have been
that's true.
A haul of all time hauls.
The price is a lot different, So it's just the one thing where teams try to win. So I don't. The problem is I have them as I think I say it's hard to win fewer than 5 games, but 4.5. It's just too close for me. I
like the over. I'd say taking it there.
You'll take the over.
Yeah, especially if Kyler comes back.
Yeah.
Before mid-season, I think he can win 2 or 3, and I think they've already won a couple before he gets there.
All right. I don't know if there's anything I want to bet on this team, to be honest with you.
You can always take
ultimately I'm generally staying away. If I'm betting anything, it's the over 4.5. Just because I think that this team has just been shit on too much. I don't think they're good.
No.
I don't think they're as bad as everyone says they are.
I don't think they're as bad as 4.5. But we will get to a team that I think is bad as 4.5, and that's our next team, who I think is going to be the worst team in football this year.
Woo!
Yeah,
and
I do too.
The Los Angeles Rams. So yeah, you have Matt Stafford, you have Cam Akers, you have
Cooper
Aaron
Kupp,
Donald, you have Cooper Kupp. Listen to all these names I'm naming, and then tell me how many other names you know on this roster.
Nobody. Let's see. I see Kevin Durant. I see Will Fuller. I see Kendrick Lamar. No,
Ben Skoronski is your go-to guy as a second option.
Skoronski.
You're in trouble.
So the thing,
who is Williams? Their second running back right here. Who is that?
K7?
Kyron Williams.
Kyron Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They got Sony Michel and Zach Evans too, but
Zach Evans, that's the name.
Kyron Williams is being listed as their number 2 right now. They made the
big time free agency splash with Sonny Williams coming back.
So this O-line, there's a universe where they're average, but if they're not, it's a house of cards. It just comes crumbling down in terrible fashion. I like Steve Avila. I mean,
I love Steve Avila. You know me, I love Steve Avila.
Yeah, but they got Coleman Shelton at center, who did play well last year. Logan Bruss didn't even play last year. He was a 3rd-round pick. So he's a complete unknown at this point. If you miss your whole rookie year as a 3rd-round pick, I don't know what you are, and I can't count on you to be good. Joe Noteboom really struggled last year before he got hurt. So he looked good in stretches before that, but what was around him was also better back then. And I'm not sure that gets better with a rookie next to you. As much as I love Avila, he's still a rookie. And when Havenstein is your best offensive lineman, I think it's a problem. I don't think he's bad. but I don't think he should be your rock on your offensive
Yeah.
line, you know? And
What a lot of
with
people
Stafford-
don't realize. What
Go
a lot
ahead.
of people don't realize about this team, they did all the like fuck those picks things. Like we don't need them. Traded away Jalen Ramsey. Traded away to everybody. They have like 14 picks coming up this offseason with their own number one overall pick. They're gonna be bad. I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Stafford is traded mid-season. Like
Ooh.
they have everything
Okay.
coming in. Like this draft class is untouched and one of the most talent-rich drafts we've seen in a long time in this 2024 draft. I wouldn't be surprised if they sell the house on everything by week 5, and this win total is 6.5. I'm hammering the under with everything
Yeah.
I got.
Like,
I'm going the Rams they're real bad.
so I would be surprised if Stafford got traded just because I think his arm might be shot.
Yeah,
I really do. Like, I don't think
That's
you
your book.
go spend a 4th round pick or a 3rd round pick on Stetson Bennett for no reason when you have this many holes. His deep accuracy was still solid last year, but he didn't throw deep. He was like 30th in actually throwing deep. His short accuracy took major hit. I just really don't know if that elbow is ever going to be right again. And at that point, behind a shaky O line, it makes me even more questionable about whether it'll hold up. You're really talking about an offense that's Cooper Kupp, and like I like Van Jefferson. I think Ben Skoranic's a lot of fun because he plays fullback and he's a wide receiver. But like outside of that, like that's not enough for me to get excited about this offense. You're really just counting on Stafford's elbow holding up and Sean McVay being the smartest guy in the room. Like, which I don't think is smart strategy.
yeah.
There is one problem with trading Matthew Stafford this year. His 2024 dead cap is $55 million.
Yeah.
There's only one problem with keeping Matthew Stafford for next year. His regular cap hit, if they keep him in 2024, is $49.5 million. They are in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. with
Unless they get a
Stafford.
rookie contract.
That's true. And they do have grizzled rookie Stetson Bennett, like you said.
I mean, Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp got a few really good years left in them at most. I think that you're the Rams, you're sitting here and saying, and Sean McVay, he's not here for a rebuild unless it's fast.
Dude,
I think what's
he's
keeping him there, what's keeping those other two guys there is like, we're going to go get Caleb.
Yeah, that's true. Like they're call them ludicrous because they're coming for that number 1 spot,
Yeah.
But it's Sean McVay. That has to be the plan because this guy is trying to retire every 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And he's not going to stick around for a team that goes.
He's going to spend this. He's going
6 and 11
to in Maui this year. He's going to come back on Sundays and then fly right back out because they're like, we got to lose all these games.
But Caleb Williams might be that dude.
I mean, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, that might be the reason why McVay sticks around because he'll stick around if they're 3-14, 2-15, getting that number 1 pick. If they're 6-11, 7-10, and they're just stuck in that purgatory, taking
I don't see
a
a
left
scenario where
guard.
this team wins 6 games.
So
Yeah, no, they're dreadful.
I had to adjust the graphic for this one because they lost so many more players than they got. Like Allen Robinson, David Edwards, Greg Gaines, Ashawn Robinson, Leonard Floyd, Bobby Wagner, Jalen Ramsey, Troy Hill, David Long Jr., Taylor Rapp, and Nick Scott. Those were almost all starters.
And Jalen Ramsey left for nothing.
Yeah, the Dolphins got to steal it.
Say what you want about Jalen Ramsey, like, dude, still at bare minimum a top 10 corner.
And so
At his worst, he's still a lockdown.
this
corner,
defense is so devoid of talent. Like it's Kobe Durant, you might have something there. Kendrick, he just isn't athletic enough to play outside corner in the NFL. And I mean, I actually have Durant twice on this graphic. I don't know why.
You could have been playing.
They have Akello Witherspoon, who hasn't played over 400 snaps since 2019, playing the
And
nickel.
he is not good. He is not good.
Ernest Jones was solid at linebacker when he was next to Bobby Wagner last year, but it's a different world when you're playing next to let me pull up his name here. Roseboom. I don't remember his first name off the top of my head, but I was curious, how good can a defense be with Aaron Donald and just Aaron Donald? And so I went back and I looked at the Rams before McVay, right? Of like, what were Aaron Donald's stats? How dominant was he? And how did the Rams do? So 2016, he had a pressure rate of 15% of the snaps, getting a sack 1.5% of the snaps. The year before, he was at 2%. So he was already like a really dominant player. They won 4 games with a dominant Aaron Donald in the middle. They only won 4 games. I think that's where this team is. I think that's what they're looking at.
Well, because here's the thing too. What is it, 2% of snaps? That's incredible for the player.
Yeah.
That's that's less than 2 snaps a game that he dominates. Big whoop, you blow that up. If the rest of the team is dreadful, like that's 98% of snaps where they're going up against Durant playing multiple positions.
Yeah. Exactly.
Sorry, I had to. but it's you can have one dominant player you can still have a dreadful defense because there's 11 guys on the field,
Yeah. No, I have nothing to look forward to in this team. At 6.5 wins, this might be my favorite total that we've recapped so far. That I'm hammering one side and I'm hammering the under on this.
I'm slamming the under as hard as possible.
They are just priced way too high here. Like, I mean, I'm not throwing too much money at minus returns, but like this
is the worst team in football.
I don't know where they get 6 wins.
Yeah, I mean, if I can find a book that'll give me like odds on like 4 wins at like plus 220, I might hammer that with 5 or 6 units. Because I don't know
even if you give them sweeping Arizona, I don't know where they get 6 wins.
Yeah, so we'll just look at it here. Strength schedule 18. Seattle, that's lost to me. San Fran, that's lost to me. Cincinnati, that's lost to me. Indy, that's lost to me. Philly, that's lost to me. Arizona, let's say they split. That's their first win. Dallas, that's a loss. Green Bay, in my opinion, it's a loss. Seattle, we'll give them the second win. Arizona, maybe they win their 3rd game there. But Cleveland's lost. Baltimore's lost. Washington's lost. New Orleans is lost. San Fran's lost, and Giants are a loss. Like, at best,
even if you give them Indy there, you're looking at 4. You're still 2.5 short.
Yeah, we're way under 6.5 here.
So I sat here and I went, okay. So every game where I go, maybe, let me give it to the Rams. I got to 6.
On a maybe.
That's with them. That's them sweeping Arizona, beating Indy, beating Pittsburgh, beating Washington, and beating New Orleans. And that was me breaking all the maybes, all the wild hairs to the Rams. And that's 6. That's the under.
Yeah. They're so. I mean, I think this is
the most clear bet of the offseason I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is definitely not a team we're sleeping on.
There's no sneaky path here either. That's the thing. There's no sneaky path. Cam Akers is like a league average back. Behind Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford, it's league average across the board. Tyler Higbee, marginally above. The offensive line is dreadful. The defense is nobody except for Aaron Donald. There's no sneaky path here.
I've been a huge Cooper Kupp fan, but like in my opinion, Cooper Kupp's always been great in a role where he can thrive as the guy with other guys around him. Like, I don't think Cooper Kupp can be the guy in an offense where he has to be the guy, if that makes sense. So if he is the clear cut guy, and you have a guy with no arm throwing him the ball,
he was really good when he didn't have Odell Beckham, but he was incredible once they got Odell Beckham.
Yeah, just one of those things, and I wouldn't be surprised if all these guys are traded by week 2.
I think Kupp and Donald are those are your two guys you keep, and outside of that, anyone's available.
I think Kupp and Donald stick around specifically because there is a cap floor.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think their contracts are movable.
Yeah.
I think Aaron Donald will be movable. I mean, if Aaron Donald's on the table, somebody like Chiefs will figure it out.
I don't think the Rams can feasibly move his contract. I don't think they can afford the dead cap that it would incur.
Yeah, because they just gave him a ton of money to entice him to come back.
Yeah.
Let's see.
If I'm Aaron Donald, though, like if you were talking about retirement last season, like why are you even playing this season?
If you're Caleb Williams staying in LA, like that's like the dream. He's at USC, staying in LA with Sean McVay and an owner who will dole out whatever you need. Like that's pretty. I don't think that he's saying I'm going back to USC if the Rams have the number 1 pick. Let's just put it.
Yeah. Like I think they're set up for the future if they can draft well. We haven't really seen this regime.
They have. I mean, when it's all 3rd through 7th round picks, they have built real NFL depth with 3rd through 7th round picks only. Like that's impressive. I have to say, that is extremely impressive.
Yeah, they've built. They've made their hay, turning 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round guys into players that would be like the 20th best player on a lot of teams. Or if you stack up 10, 15 of those guys, that's a solid roster.
Yeah, that's the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah. Somewhere I sleep on the Cardinals.
But yeah, I think I agree. The Rams are the worst team in football. There is a saying around these parts, which is same old sorry ass Rams, and they are back to being the same old sorry ass Rams.
But they did win a Super Bowl.
They're coming for you, Caleb.
They didn't win a Super Bowl, so it's like I would give up a Super Bowl if I was them.
Oh, I mean, you win a Super Bowl, you get a lot of leeway. I mean, I'm a San Francisco Giants fan. I'm still cruising off of 3 World Series a decade ago. So
you beat the Rangers.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm a Cubs fan. I'm just glad we had one.
You also beat the Cowboys often. Yeah. Now that I'm talking to you, I'm not a big fan of San Fran sports.
That's fine.
I still got the Spurs though. I always have the Spurs, but fuck Zaza Pachulia.
I hate the Warriors, so that works out.
Okay, really well. We both have.
I'm a Sacktown boy, so yeah. I lived in the Bay during 73-9 as a non-Warriors fan, and let me tell you, it was miserable.
Yeah. So
everybody would come into work talking shit.
So we can both say fuck Zaza Pachulia.
That's right.
All right, thank you all for listening. If you have any thoughts or comments, let us know in the comments who's going to win the NFC West and how they're going to win it. And let us know why we're wrong about the Rams, because we're all in agreement that they are trash.
Yeah, worst team in football.
I'm Jayden May. You can find me on Twitter at JMay56. This is my co-host, Quentin Krisko. You can find him on Twitter at Butkus Stats. Where can they find you, Jeff?
They can find me on Twitter at Jeff Krisko, spelled differently, Krisko. Find my work on footballabsurdity.com. Right now we're putting out sleepers, breakouts, and busts for every team from a fantasy football perspective.
As well as the fantasy talk.
Yeah, as well as the Football Absurdity podcast, which comes out roughly once a week right now. It's more like every 8 or 9 days or so. But we just did sleepers, breakouts, busts for each division. We did auction draft strategy a few weeks ago with Evan Hoovler, our auction guru. And we have a lot of fun stuff coming up this offseason. So you can check us out wherever you find podcasts there.
And Jeff, do you all have a YouTube channel?
We are working on that. We actually had a Twitch exclusivity contract that ran out because they were trying to do a sports startup thing that went nowhere. Sorry, Twitch, but that's the long and the short of it. They were trying to do a sports thing, and Twitch isn't built for that. So we're building up a YouTube, but not yet. Okay. We're getting there.
All right. Well, thank y'all so much, and let us know who we're not sleeping on. Right now, we're not sleeping on the Texans.
And maybe the Cardinals?
Maybe the Cardinals? We'll see.
Maybe Sam Darnold?
We can't choose the 49ers. Nobody's sleeping on the Niners. But Let us
Nobody's
know who we're
sleeping
sleeping
on
on. Let us know who we're sleeping on. We'll see y'all next week. Thank y'all so much for listening. And let us know who's winning the NFC West.
Adios.